The first dynasty of the modern era to rule over Iran were the but before them there was another dynasty who brought about reforms in Iran, which set it on the path to modernity. They were the Zand dynasty. And before them there was yet another dynasty who laid the foundations for the modern Iranian state, the Afshars. But before them, who were the rulers of Iran? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about one of the most powerful dynasties of pre-modern Iran, the Queni or the Ottoman. The Queniyad were a Turkic tribe who originated from the Siberian steppes. Like many other Turkic tribes, they followed a shamanist religion that revered nature. But they also followed Tengriism, which is a belief system that revolves around belief in a supreme sky deity. Though the beliefs of the Quraysh people are heavily shrouded in mystery due to a lack of sources, this much is clear that they held shamanistic rituals and performed human sacrifices. Their political structure revolved around a council of elders, while their leader was referred to as the Khan. The real power lay with this council. In the 17th century, the Qom clan was led by a man named Ismail Khan. He would become the founder of the dynasty. In 1648, Ismail Khan declared himself the Emir of Persia. His new capital would be at Kazan, which was called Tehran back then. Ismail Khan died in 1657, and he would be succeeded by his son, Sultan Hussein. The latter would face revolts from different ethnic groups, including the Kurds and the Turkmen. But Hussein put down these revolts and expanded his domain into Iraq. By the time of his death, the Khan had established dominance over all of Iran except for Isfahan, which was controlled by the Afshurids, and the northwest, which was controlled by the Safavids. Sultan Hussein would be succeeded by his brother, Sultan Ahmad. He would continue his father's policy of expansion and conquest, and managed to conquer Isfahan, thus uniting most of Iran under his rule. However, the Ottoman advance into Iran was halted by the Safavids at the Battle of Karaj in 1658. Sultan Ahmad continued to expand outside of Iran, and managed to conquer Armenia and Azerbaijan. He would go on to establish the city of Tabriz, and make it the new capital of the kingdom. Unfortunately, little is known about the next two rulers, Sultan Mohammed and Sultan Ibrahim, apart from the fact that they kept expanding the empire. By 1694, the Qajars had expanded all the way to Central Asia, where they bordered the Chinese, Russian and Mughal empires. This marked the peak of the Qajar territorial holdings. After Sultan Ibrahim, his brother, Sultan Mahdi, came to power. He was succeeded by Nader Khan, who in turn was succeeded by Sultan Shah. His reign would mark the beginning of the end for the dynasty. That's because he would lead an invasion into Baghdad in 1722. During the siege, he commissioned the building of a new city that would be inhabited by Turks, Tatars and Kurds. It was called New Jadesho, and served as a buffer zone between the Qajars and the Ottoman Empire. However, the Qajars' invasion of Baghdad proved to be very costly and drained their treasury. To raise funds, Sultan Shah levied heavy taxes on the populace. This led to revolts, the most significant of which was led by Mork, who was a Kurd. The revolt was crushed, but it weakened the Qajar hold on power. After Sultan Shah, Malik Ghazi Khan came to power. He tried to get the empire back on track by implementing economic and social reforms. He encouraged agriculture, trade and industry. He also ended the practice of slavery. Moreover, he founded the city of Mashhad in 1734. But unfortunately, he would die just 3 years later, and with him, the dynasty would come to an end. When Malik Ghazi Khan died, a power struggle ensued between the princes. The empire was divided into 3: east, west and center. The western part was controlled by Nader Shah, who was Malagasy Khan's general. Nader Shah founded the Afjarid dynasty. The central part was controlled by Karim Khan, who founded the Zand dynasty, and the eastern part was controlled by Shaverdi Khan, who was a puppet ruler installed by Nader Shah. It should be noted that Nader Shah was of Afjar extraction, while both his predecessors and successors were of Kiowa origin. So why did the Kiowa lose control of their empire after the death of Malagasy Khan? There are many reasons for this. First off, the Qajars were never really successful in controlling the diverse ethnicities of Iran. Whenever they tried to assert control over the provinces, rebellions broke out. Secondly, despite being Muslims, the Qajars were never successful in winning over the religious establishment. The clergy saw the Qajars as outsiders, since they were of Mongol extraction. Thirdly, the Qajars were not successful in completely assimilating the Persians into Turkish culture. In fact, Persian culture had a huge impact on the Qajars themselves, as seen in the architectural marvels that were built during their reign. Lastly, the internal divisions within the Qajar clan also played a role in their downfall. When Malik Ghazi Khan died, there was a mad scramble for power between the princes, which resulted in the empire splitting into three. Now, during the reign of the Qajars, Iran experienced a golden age of sorts. Trade flourished and cities prospered. Foreigners who traveled to Iran wrote extensively about its great cities, especially about the magnificence of it. They also wrote about how Iranian cities were generally clean, well-planned, and had nice parks. Here's a quote from one such traveler. "The town is very handsome and well built. All the streets are straight and well paved. Most of the houses are large and lofty. Some have gardens, and some have fine porticos, and the whole place has a delightful appearance." Another thing that impressed foreigners was the Iranian cavalry. They were especially impressed by the manner in which the soldiers rode their horses. They also admired the agility, skill, and activity of the horsemen. One traveler wrote their cavalry form a circle around the king, making a half circle with their right hands, while each man with his left hand holds up his horse by the bridle with so much agility and address that they seem to be walking on the ground. The reason why the Qajars had such skilled horsemen was because they valued horsemanship and military prowess. Every boy growing up in the empire would learn how to ride a horse and use a sword, so when they went to war, they were more than prepared. Another thing that the foreigners were surprised by was the dress sense of the Iranians. Most of them wore European-style suits, though the nobility preferred to wear the traditional Persian clothes. Nonetheless, Iranians paid a lot of attention to their appearance and always looked neat and tidy. The women were especially fashionable and were trendsetters across the region. They were probably the most fashionable women in the entire Middle East. Here's what a European traveler had to say about them. "The Persian ladies are exceedingly beautiful and graceful. Their hair is generally black and very long. They dress in silk garments, and their veils are of the finest linen. They never appear in public without having first carefully tied up their whole body in linen, only leaving a hole for their faces. The women of Isfahan are particularly celebrated for their beauty. There are several thousand of the lower order of people in this city who gain a livelihood by prostitution, and they are treated with less severity than in other countries. But it wasn't all good during the Qajar era. Although trade flourished and cities prospered, the countryside did not benefit from this prosperity. The farmers toiled in the fields, while the merchants and artisans reaped the rewards. And when the heavy tax collection season arrived, the burden fell on the backs of the poor farmers. In addition to this, the Qajars ruled like the monarchs of Europe, meaning they considered themselves superior to the rest of society. They also enjoyed hunting and keeping mistresses. They liked to flaunt their wealth and power, and since the coffers were filled from the blood, sweat, and tears of the common folk, The Qajars lived lives of luxury. After the demise of the Qayyars, 2 other dynasties would rule Iran before the Qayyars took over: the Afsharids and the Zands. We've already talked about the Zands in our previous video, so make sure to check it out. And the Afsharids will be covered in an upcoming video. For now, though, I'll leave you with this. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, let me know what you thought about this episode in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next video.